What's up, guys? It is a lovely spring day here in Georgia. A little cool, nice and breezy. I was out for a drive in my El Camino. Got my buddy Moby in the passenger seat. We were having a great time. And all of a sudden, pow, this noise happened. And yeah, I don't know if you remember those burnouts we did on power tour in this car and blew up the diff. Well, yeah, the diff finally let go. So we're not going anywhere. This thing is pretty darn blown up and not moving under its own power. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get this home. But for now, I'm gonna push it off the side of the road because I don't want anybody to steal this beautiful machine. Oh, this is stupid. First things first, let's jump under the back and see what we can see. Because, oh yeah, that right there is very broken. My buddy Cold Hard Art welded this up after my buddy Matt and I had welded it together using a flux core welder. And it's held for like thousands of miles. But apparently a chunk decided it no longer wanted to be connected to the rest of the other chunks. And gear oil is everywhere under here. Yep, that piece was a quitter. Whew, that's a bad failure. Guess it's time for a new diff. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to fix this thing on the side of the road with baling wire this time. So, my dad's going to come out with the truck and the tow dolly because our car trailer has our shop that we have yet to build on it. And, yeah, things are probably going to get sketchy towing a lowered car home on a tow dolly, but that'll be fine. Right? In the meantime, I broke down in this beautiful place where a neighborhood is being built. We got ourselves a playground to play on. There's a walking trail right there. And just taking Moby for a walk. Moby, say hey. Yep, there's always a bright side. Now don't let this discourage you from getting out and driving your old car because that's not what this is about. And honestly, this whole thing is pretty much my fault because I LS swapped my car and left the factory 10-bolt back there, blew it up, then welded it together with hopes and dreams, and just kept driving it while still beating on it. So yeah, if this teaches you anything, let it be, don't LS swap your car and leave a wimpy 10-bolt in the back. Upgrade your rear end so you don't end up stranded on the side of the road. But if you do end up stranded on the side of the road, take a minute and take in the scenery because sometimes you break down somewhere and it's pretty beautiful. Look at that. Not too shabby. Obi, do you want to fill all the stereotypes about dogs? Come here. Oh, he's scared of it. It's gonna happen. Yes! Oh, good boy. All this newfound time I have while I wait for my dad to get here is making me think, am I too rough on my cars? And look, there's even a bench to sit and ponder these things on while Moby eats some grass. I keep breaking stuff. And maybe it's that I'm too rough on cars, or maybe it's that I don't put good enough parts into them. It's probably the latter, so I might have to call Quick Performance up and see if I can get a 9-inch for the Elko at this point, because, let's be honest, it needs it. Just add snacks. Not interested. I suppose while I wait, I might as well work on getting the car ready to go on the tow dolly. So, drive shaft's got to come out. Let's make that happen. Alright, we're under the car, and I only have a few tools with me. I have a 1/4-inch drive ratchet set, a 1/2-inch wrench, and a 7/16. If I remember right, these are 1/2-inch. So we're in business. Come on. I hate when fingers get cold. You can't feel anything. You can't grip on anything. And it's not even that cold, so how do you people up north do it? I could never. Flip over. Oh, making a bunch of dad noises. Oh, that wind is cold. What is happening with my life? I need nicer cars. Come on. Success! Sorry, EPA. I seem to make a mess everywhere I go. That gear vendor overdrive unit, though. Fancy. Oh, the grass is wet. The grass is wet. No. The nice thing about having an El Camino, you have a bed to put parts in. So practical. So I got my hands a little dirtier than I like. This muddy puddle should help me clean them up. Is this smart or stupid? I can't decide. Could go either way. But at least my hands will be clean instead of gross. I mean, they're muddy now, but better than greasy, right? That's just outside the box thinking right there. Just please don't rain on me. That would just make the day so much worse. Look who's here. The cavalry has arrived. What do you have to say?
You never know what you might find on the side of the road.
Yep.
Yeah, you find out who your friends are.
This should go well. You hit something? You got some plant matter on there. Oh, and one taillight. Perfect.
Moby the mechanic dog.
Yeah, he's of no use when the cars break. He's good company though. Alright, now comes the fun part. We get to winch the car up onto the tow dolly with a come along. Old school. Whenever you're towing your car and you're on a tow dolly, honestly, the little lights on the fenders suck. Nobody can actually see them. So bring some magnetic trailer lights with you. They'll save you from getting pulled over and having to explain the ridiculous situation you're in. And then you're gonna have all this leftover wire. What you're gonna wanna do, open your hood and just throw it in there essentially.
Or just don't drive old crap that breaks down.
Well, you know, not everybody has that option because old stuff is just cooler. Look at that. She's all hooked up and ready to go. Let's hope I don't rip my bumper off. It's hanging kind of low. Let's hear what this rear end does when we move. All right. Oh, it might not lock up. We might be all right. Ooh, sorry EPA, there's some ATF. It's totally quiet. Fingers crossed this works. Better than calling a tow truck. Tow trucks cost money, dads are free. Hang in there, Elko, don't fall off. So, were you expecting you to get that call at some point? I'm sure you kind of were.
I'm always expecting to get a call about a broke down car with you, Jake. Hey, there's a car coming.
I need nicer stuff, or at least nicer parts in the future. I was asking myself earlier, am I just really hard on cars, or do I just not put nice enough parts on them?
Both.
Both? Probably a combo of both, you're right.
You break the nice parts too.
Alright, so now we gotta find a new rear end for this car and fix it. Provided it makes it home and doesn't fall off the trailer. Yeah. Well, we made it home safe and sound. Now we're unloading the tow dolly in the rain. Good times. Driving old stuff isn't always easy, but it is kind of fun. Even when it's not. Makes sense if you don't think about it. Making the drive back down the driveway. It's in whisper mode though. Super quiet. But we made it home! And we're rolling into the driveway on our own four wheels. Oh goodness, let's see if I can wreck it. That'd be lovely. Hey, I hit the brick. Perfect. All right, so it's been a couple days since I dragged the El Camino home because I've been busy working on the site where we're building the shop. And also, check the new merch. If you want to get it, go to sallyspeed.com. I'll put the link in the description. But I got the El Camino jacked up, and you notice I got a towel back here. Well, that's important because for some reason, this driveway is like 0 grit sandpaper. I mean, it will just rip your skin right off. So put a towel down to save the skin, and I'm going to climb under there and zip that diff cover off and see exactly what went wrong because I'm curious, and I'm sure you guys are too. So let's make it happen. There is gear oil everywhere back here because one of the parts decided it wanted to eject suddenly and violently. Yep, that is not exactly a factory option right there. The vent is actually up here. Not supposed to be right there. That's not supposed to be a vent. So, yeah, let's pop this thing off and see what's going on. So you'll notice, this time I'm being responsible. Check it out. I got a drain pan. Unfortunately, when this happened, I got all my nice new QA1 parts dirty. But, this level 3 kit from QA1 is choice. Alright guys, let's see what we got in here. There's pieces already. That's always good. But look at that. Isn't that tasty looking? This actually broke a couple times on Power Tour. And we welded it together. So my buddy Matt Man welded the pin in because the pin tried to shear and come out. But yeah, we welded this up in a hotel parking lot with that little flux core welder and about 100 feet of extension cord, because that's what you want to do, especially with good hotel room power. Then it let go the next day, and then the day after that, and then my buddy Cold Hard Art actually welded this up with a nice Miller welder, and it held for a good 3,000 or 4,000 miles. But I'd say it's toast now. That is awful. Sorry, little tin bolt. Look. Little piece of wire from our flux core welding job. That is, that's lovely. Look, more pieces. Whoops. That is, that's gnarly. That's quite broken. So I guess a piece of a spider gear is what ejected through the rear cover, because that spider gear is missing. I mean, it is gone. This is a pretty catastrophic failure. These welds on the pin, I can grind down enough to maybe get the pin out. Might have to actually cut the pin in half and get it out that way because there's so much weld on it. But if I can get that out, there's a chance that I could actually replace all these spider gears, especially that one that has literally disappeared, with a mini spool or something and keep driving this thing in the meantime while I save up for the right rear end. But I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. I'm not a smart man, people, but I have a good time. The nice thing is, I might have a locked rear end at the end of this rather than a one-wheel peel, and it's only going to cost me about $100 and a whole lot of swear words, but it might work. Now that I've let this car sit for a few days in the driveway, I think it's time to make a mess of that rear end. Not that I didn't already do that, but I'm going to try to grind that pin out of there that's welded in, and then actually try to get the spider gears off and the C-clips out so that I can actually pull the axles out and put a new center section in it on the cheap, because I have some plans to swap a different rear end of this car down the road, but I need it to run and drive for a possible road trip / rear end swap deal that I'm working on. We'll see what happens. But it's sitting here in the driveway looking nice and pretty, and I'm gonna try not to catch it on fire, but I do have a fire extinguisher just in case. It's time to break out the death wheel and see if I can get that center section out. I will say, if you're gonna be grinding under your car right next to a gas tank that's above your head, at least try to be moderately safe. Wear some gloves, get some stylish safety glasses from the mid-90s, and let her eat, bud. If any of you guys use a death wheel, and you actually use those stupid tools to get this thing loose, you don't know what you're doing. Push this guy down, twist it by the actual blade itself, comes right off. Then you're gonna wanna swap it for something a little more aggressive. That grinding disc will do nicely. Toss that guy on there, throw this right back on. She'll be good to go. And look, you don't need no fancy tool. Just use your hand. Good to go. Let's see what kind of trouble we can get into here. Alrighty, that's one side done. Let's see if we can get the other side. that's not pretty. But it might just work. Now I gotta get this bolt out and see if I can get this pin driven out, or at least get it to move. All right, so let's see if we can get this bolt knocked loose. Oh, I think we got it already. That was easy. I'm actually kind of amazed that it was this easy, because that sucker's kind of bent. When your carrier pin bolt is bent, because your carrier pin is bent, a lot of times they don't come out easy, but you know what? I will take it. No complaints from this guy. Also, don't do this to a car you actually care about. Not that I don't care about this car, but I don't care about this rear end. So yeah, if you care about your rear end, don't do what I'm doing. This is all a bad idea. You guys know what I do when all else fails? You break out a big hammer and just hit it and see what happens. Give it a good whack. Definitely budged a little, but I think I'm gonna have to cut the middle of this pin out to actually get it to do anything. Yeah, this'll work. I just gotta fight it for a while. All right, so things have devolved into anarchy. No matter what I do, I can't cut all the way through that pin. This would all be a lot easier if I had a torch, but you know, I don't have one, so I'm trying to make do. This screwdriver is somehow wedged in there like Excalibur. Cannot get this thing out unless you are in fact King Arthur. I pulled the yoke off the end because I need this to be able to move back and forth. The reason I can move it back and forth is because I actually cut the shims that hold the carrier in the rear end housing where it's supposed to go. And in theory, I might have stuff moving enough now that I can get this C-clip out on this side. Yet to be determined. If I can ever get my freaking screwdriver out. Oh man, this is stupid. So after a whole lot of hammer action and a little bit of swearing, this thing's coming apart. We're getting there. Let me show you real quick. Check it out, guys. I got the pin out. I actually had to drill the pin in half because I couldn't cut it because I don't have a cutting torch. Anyway, I got the pin out and managed to get one of the C-clips off, so we're about to pull that axle out. But the other C-clip is completely welded to the spider gear, so might actually have to end up cutting the carrier in half here and here to get that axle out. Yeah, not good. Here's the failure from when I was doing a burnout. When the spider gears exploded, it also nearly sheared the pin in two, but didn't quite get it. And as you can see, I couldn't quite cut all the way through it with my Dremel. So, yep, that's when I resorted to drilling a hole all the way through the pin. That was fun. Ready to pull an axle out? Yep. Is it messed up at all? Splines still look totally straight. Might be reusable.
Liberated for the first time in a long time.
Maybe ever, we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, now to get the other one out. There we go. That just feels wrong to take it apart like that. So dumb. Well, there we go. Just like that. That is how you do it according to the factory service manual right there. 100% by the book. That's how we do things here.
We can weld it ideally.
Oh man, I've never done anything like this to a car. This is just wrong. Well, there you go, guys. That's how you get access to your other C-clip that is welded in place, so you can get a death wheel to it. Use a death wheel to gain access to use a death wheel elsewhere. Makes sense if you don't think about it. There's a nut in there. We were just throwing crap in the rear end and welding it together. I don't remember. It's such a mess in here. rotate that axle. There we go. Haha! Last piece. Look at that, guys. That is not how you remove a carrier. Just so you know. Do things the right way, not how I do it. Well, it's a few days later, maybe over a week now. I don't really know. It's always a good day when you come home to a box that says Summit Racing Equipment. It's time to replace this busted mess right here. And what we're going to replace it with, so we can do some proper burnouts on the new shop slab, is a mini spool. That way I can die the next time it rains. Mini spool for a 8.2 inch diameter 10 bolt. And we got our cross shaft pin as well. And these are all odds and ends for the turquoise wagon that's getting a 4-barrel swap instead of the junky 2-barrel that's on it. But yeah, it's time to kick this junk to the curb. Rob some parts from that 10 bolt that's underneath that chair, and slap that little guy in it. And do some 2-wheel peels. Oh yeah. So for those of you who want to know the proper way to take apart a 10 bolt, instead of using your death wheel to actually cut the carrier in half, there are basically 2 C-clips that ride on some little slots in the axle. You can see that C-clip in there moving around a little bit. And this pin keeps those axles from moving in and out, which keeps those C-clips from being able to slide out of place. And all you've got to do is take out this bolt right here that holds the cross pin in place, and then you can drive this pin out, which then allows you to slide the axles in and pull those C-clips out, and then you just unbolt these 2 main caps for the bearings and pull that sucker out. Way easier than having to cut it out like I did with this one. That's not the right way to do things. This, much better. A good thing to make note of is that on an 8.2 inch diameter 10 bolt, these are regular right hand threads, but if you're working on an 8.5 inch diameter 10 bolt, these are left hand threads. And so if you try to loosen them by turning left, you're going to break the bolts off. So just keep that in mind. And before you put this back together, throw a little Loctite on it. And these are 45 foot-pounds each. Or you could just run them down with an impact and call it good. That's probably what I'm going to do. Ha! Alright, I figure I owe you guys a brief overview over what a mini spool actually is. So normally, your spider gears sit down in here and do some sort of magic that differentiates all the power to either one axle or the other. And the nice thing about these is that they can spin independently of each other when they're assembled, and you're not going to get any tires binding in the corner. The thing about a mini spool, which is this chunk of metal that's machined to take the place of those gears, is when it's put together, like so, it is locked completely together. Everything spins as one unit, which means your axles are tied completely together. And what that makes happen is when you go around corners and you have a tire turning at a different rate than another, they chirp as you go because this can only spin as one unit. And there's a couple pros and cons to these. They're super cheap. They do not break like welded rear ends because, well, it's a solid chunk of metal. It's a lot harder to break than a weld. They allow you to lock a rear end and go full race car mode, which means you're going to die when you drive your car in the rain, but you know, that's no biggie. The axles are still held in by C-clips, and so when one of those axles eventually breaks, because it's going to break out here, those axles are just going to come flying out of the car because there's nothing else to hold them in. So you'll lose a wheel and tire and an axle, but you know, no biggie. And while they're not great for daily driving your car, they are really good for burnouts. And so I'm going to toss this guy in here and make some smoke. Yeah, buddy. Nice thing is these are really simple to put together too. You just drop it in there, slide it into place, grab the other one, drop it in, slide it into place. See, I can even do it one-handed. And then these 2 guys slide down in this channel right here, just like that, and just like that. Once you got everything lined up, you take your new cross shaft pin, slide it into place, just like so, and there you go. You got yourself a mini spooled 10 bolt. Pretty simple. Well, I got everything to put the rear end back together. I got my mini spool in my center section. It's got the bearings out of the other rear end as well as the shims. I got all the bolts as well as the other cover that doesn't have a hole in it. I got new seals for the pinion as well as both axles and random assortment of gear oil and some brake clean. Yeah, I gotta clean this sucker out because there's a little bit of carnage down in there still. And I'm gonna clean up the bearings and get them nice and free of grit before this all goes together. But in theory, I should have the rear end back together tonight. Well, it's another day out here. I was hoping to have the car together last night, but I ran into an issue with one of my parts, and I'll show you what that was right now. This is the new pinion seal provided by the expert behind the counter at the local auto parts store, and this is the old one that came out of the rear end. If you have eyeballs at all, you can tell that that one is much larger than that one, and therefore will not work. But after looking up the part number myself, that is the correct seal. And yeah, that looks way better than that monstrosity that does not even come close to fitting. But anyway, now that we have all the right parts, I can throw this thing back together and hopefully take this thing for a test drive. Yeah, buddy. You ever have one of those moments where you've been working on something and it's fighting you, and then you realize the entire concept of what you're doing was fundamentally flawed from the start? Well, here's what I just realized. This is the 273 pinion out of this rear end that I'm using as a donor. And if you compare it to the 308 pinion out of my car, you'll notice there's a bit of a size difference there. And because of that, this carrier that came out of that rear end is actually offset to make up for that size. So if you put these next to each other, that is much higher than that because it's offset about, what, a third of an inch?
Third of an inch, yeah.
Which is quite a lot and not a normal measurement. Nobody actually measures in thirds of inches. I was trying to shim this carrier over to make up for it, and I shimmed it so much that the carrier was actually hitting the housing and wouldn't spin anymore. So this is why. And because of that, I'm going to have to run the 273 gears. So that 308 gear that I swapped onto here, it's going to get replaced with the 273 gear again. So, I hate doing work twice.
So think about that next time you think about cutting your carrier in half.
Yeah, that's not normal. So all of this is stupid from the start. Don't do what I do. I'm an idiot. And all this is because I don't want to spend money on a new rear end. I'd rather just cobble together all the junk that I have.
Well, you don't want money going out your rear end.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to make all this witchcraft and sorcery happen and then throw it in the car. Well, with the 273 gear on the 273 carrier, everything works like it's supposed to. It's got the right lash. I mean, according to the finger gauge here. That sounds right, right? I could get the dial indicator out, but do I really care that much? I don't think I care that much about this rear end. I will check the wear pattern and make sure it's at least moderately okay. But overall, I think she's good to go. So I just checked the wear pattern. I didn't have the right yellow paint to use, so I used some white pipe dope that I had. Worked pretty good though. I can actually see the wear pattern is pretty good right there in the middle. You can really see that it's good on this side. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'll send it and see what happens. If it whines, right?
It just needs to be good for one burnout on the new slab.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Time to throw the mini spool in. So after a little bit of finagling, we got the axles with the C-clips in and the two spline sections of the mini spool. Now we just got to put this cross shaft pin in as well as these two blocks for the mini spool. And I got a new bolt with fancy red Loctite on it so it doesn't come out. You know, because I care. And she's good to go. Just got to toss the diff cover on, fill it with fluid, and then see how bad it whines as you go down the road because it's probably going to. So I got that crusty old 10 bolt all the way back together. Look at it surrounded by all those nice QA1 parts. Just doesn't seem right. But I topped off the fluid, no leaks, and I'm going to test on it tomorrow, see how she does. But for now, I got to toss the wheels and tires back on, and then I'm going to leave it up in the air tonight because I got to fill up the fluid in the gear vendor overdrive. But she is good to go. We're making progress, guys. It's almost time for a fatty burnout. Also, can we just take a second to appreciate this work setup? I got an umbrella, complete with a fluorescent light, installed right above my tailgate workbench with my toolbox on it. I got a blanket to lay on so I'm not scratching myself on the rough concrete. And just look at the beautiful lighting off of this bird feeder. This is just high-class stuff. Man, I cannot wait to have a shop. But this did the trick for this. Good morning, everybody. I got Moby with me. We're we're on our way over to the Sally Speed Shop build site because we're gonna rip a burnout on that concrete pad today. And we got a special guest coming. Yeah, buddy. So we just got the rear end on the Elko back together, and what better way do you test one out than to rip a good burnout? That way you really know if you did it right. Alright, so I'm out here at the future home of Sally Speed Shop. See, rocking all the gear. And check out our special guest of honor here. It's my grandma, Sally Davis. Yeah! The one and only. That's the namesake right there. She's going to ride in the El Camino with me while I rip a nice burnout. And I don't know if she's ever done a burnout in her entire life. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man.
First time for
Setting records over here.
First time for everything.
Oh, yeah. Let's make it happen. You ready to do your first burnout?
Yes.
Let me get the door for you. Don't worry, I got a fire extinguisher if anything goes wrong.
Come on, let's do it right now, Jake. Come on. Come on, Jake. Let's do a burnout.
Oh, man.
Woo.
She is way too excited.
Woo. Ooh, I'm gonna hang on. Woo.
So you've never done a burnout in your whole life? Never.
No, that's the first time. Wow.
Alright, let's see how this goes. It could go poorly and could go well. We don't really know, but we're going to find out.
Okay, let's go.
We'll go again. Why not?
I see the tire marks.
Can you breathe all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't believe
Let's see if it'll do it on dry pavement.
Wow.
Can you breathe?
Woo.
Oh, it's bad. Let's see if we can get out of here. It's still smoky in here.
This ain't Grandma cry.
How good was that?
Smoky in here.
That's
Oh,
pretty
man.
good.
Do all the smoke.
Oh, man. And that's how you do a burnout with your 86-year-old grandma who's never done one and completely smoke her out to where she can't even breathe.
She got tears in her eyes, in her ears.
Oh, good. That was awesome.
So why aren't we wearing masks? Because tire smoke kills the coronavirus.
Tire smoke kills everything.
Don't forget to check us out for daily content on Instagram at Jacob Ross Davis and the shop page at Sally Speed Shop. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.